What's up, guys? It's time for me to dive into my Week 18 NFL predictions. We got the Chiefs taking on the Broncos. Denver just got eliminated from playoff contention last week. I expect them to go after a big-name quarterback this offseason. On the other side, Kansas City is coming off a tough loss to the Cincinnati Bengals. That being said, I still view them as one of the top teams in the AFC. Give me the Chiefs. Next up, we got the Cowboys taking on the Eagles. Folks, both of these teams will be in the playoffs, but I expect them to both go out in the wild card round. Dallas will most likely end up with the number 4 seed in the NFC and play either the Rams or the Cardinals. I don't love their chances. On the other side, give Philadelphia credit. They were a rebuilding team. Most people picked them to finish in last place in the NFC East. A lot of people had them getting a top 5 pick. But they found a way to rally and make the postseason, which is very impressive. That being said, I don't love their chances. I think the Cowboys win this game. Philly had a bunch of players that tested positive for COVID. Give me Dallas. Next up, we got the Washington football team taking on the Giants. Both of these teams need to address the quarterback position. I've never been a fan of Daniel Jones. Taylor Heineke kind of reminds me of Gardner Minshew. He can be good for a couple games here and there, but he ultimately isn't the franchise quarterback you're ultimately looking for. The Giants will clean house. I believe Dave Gettleman will lose his job. I think Joe Judge should definitely lose his job after getting humiliated by the Chicago Bears. And like I said before, I'm not a Daniel Jones fan. I got the Washington football team winning this game. They will address their biggest issue, which is finding a team name this offseason. Next up, we got the Patriots taking on the Dolphins. New England lost to Miami earlier in the season, but they turned the football over 3 times. I expect New England to play a clean game. I don't trust Tua. Miami very easily could be in the sweepstakes for Deshaun Watson. Give me the Patriots. Next up, we got the Bills taking on the Jets. The Jets had some issues early in the year with Zach Wilson. He was a turnover machine. Over his last 6 games, Zach Wilson has only turned the football over once. And the Jets do have some impressive wins on their resume. They beat the Bengals, they beat the Titans, and last week, they gave Tampa Bay a run for their money. That being said, the Bills will win this game. Josh Allen has been a roller coaster this season. Last year, he was a top 2 MVP candidate. This year, he has been up and down, and depending on which version of Josh Allen we get, the Buffalo Bills could go out in the first round of the playoffs, but they could also go to the Super Bowl. We don't know. I expect the Bills to win this game. Next up, we got the Browns taking on the Bengals. Last Monday night was Big Ben's final home game in Pittsburgh, but it very easily could have been Baker Mayfield's final game as a member of the Cleveland Browns. Coming into the season, the Browns had high expectations. People were picking them to go to the playoffs, even to go to the Super Bowl. I thought they had a shot. But unfortunately, things didn't go according to plan. Baker Mayfield took a gigantic step back in his development. They dealt with multiple injuries, and the defense that they went all in on failed to pan out. This team seriously needs to look at all of their options at the quarterback position next year, because they have a talented roster, but they need a difference maker. This team was outscored 124-73 in the 4th quarter this year. Ultimately, Baker couldn't get the job done against Kansas City in week 1 of the season, against the Chargers in week 5, Baltimore in Baltimore, and against Green Bay on Christmas. So they need to address that position. A big reason why is because of what the Cincinnati Bengals did this year. Joe Burrow, coming off that devastating injury, had a season for the ages. I believe he will win Comeback Player of the Year. Jamar Chase is the favorite to win Offensive Rookie of the Year. I know Joe Burrow and Joe Mixon are sitting out of this game, but I still think the Bengals can hang on and win this game with Brandon Allen under center. Next up, we got the Steelers taking on the Ravens. This will be Big Ben's final game in the NFL. He's had a great run. That being said, I'm going to go with the Ravens. They're at home. Tyler Huntley has been in so many close games this season. He almost beat the Packers a couple of weeks ago. Last week, he had the Rams dead to rights. Unfortunately, Cooper Kupp and Odell Beckham Jr. bailed out Matthew Stafford. I think the Ravens spoil Big Ben's final game of the season. Next up, we got the Titans taking on the Texans. Give the Titans credit. When they lost Derrick Henry, a lot of people wrote them off. And Mike Vrabel found a way to get Tennessee back on track. They have the number 1 seed, and I expect them to win this game. The Texans did beat them earlier in the season, but I think that was a fluke. As long as Ryan Tannehill takes care of the football, the Titans will win this game. Next up, we got the Colts taking on the Jags. Folks, Indy had a devastating loss last week to the Las Vegas Raiders, but I expect them to bounce back. They're playing the worst team in the league that lost by 40 points to the Patriots last Sunday. Give me the Colts. Next up, we got the Packers taking on the Lions. Green Bay will be playing their starters in this game. I like that mindset. I expect the Packers to easily steamroll the Lions. They clinched the number 1 seed. They've been the best team in the NFL. Give me the Packers. Next up, we got the Bears taking on the Vikings. Chicago, much like Jacksonville, needs to get their head coach right. They drafted Justin Fields 11th overall. Now they need to bring in a solid head coach that can fix this offense. On the other side, Minnesota will probably part ways with Mike Zimmer. This is a team that has a ton of talent. They've been in every single game. They can beat any team in the NFL. They can also lose to any team in the NFL. But I expect them to beat the Bears on Sunday. Next up, we got the Buccaneers taking on the Panthers. Folks, Tampa Bay still has a shot to get the number 2 seed in the NFC. If the Rams lose to the Niners, Tampa beats Carolina, Tampa Bay instantly moves up to that number 2 slot, and they get an easier opponent. I understand there's a lot going on. Antonio Brown decided to act like a clown last week against the Jets. They're dealing with a ton of injuries, but I'm not sure if I can bet against Tom Brady. Green Bay should absolutely be the favorite, but Tampa is still the team that I still believe that Tampa is the biggest threat to the Packers, and I wouldn't be shocked if the Bucs beat the Packers when it mattered most. On the other side, Carolina needs to address the quarterback situation. They traded for Sam Darnold because they ultimately couldn't get Deshaun Watson. They brought in Cam when Darnold got injured. Things weren't working even when he was healthy. This is a team that needs to go all in, and I expect them to be in the Deshaun Watson sweepstakes. Give me the Bucs. Next up, we got the Falcons taking on the Saints. The Saints still have a shot at getting into the playoffs, even without Jameis Winston under center. Sean Payton has done a phenomenal job with this team. I expect them to beat the Falcons. They beat Atlanta last year with Taysom Hill under center. Taysom Hill is back under center. I expect the Saints to go into Atlanta and beat the Falcons. Next up, we got the Seahawks taking on the Cardinals. This very well could be Russell Wilson's final game with the Seahawks. The Cardinals have been one of the best teams in the NFL. This game means a lot to Arizona because if they win and the Rams lose, Arizona goes from being the 5 seed in the NFC to to the 3 seed in the NFC. I like the Cardinals against Seattle. For my final NFC game of the year, we got the San Francisco 49ers taking on the Los Angeles Rams. Folks, the Niners have beat the Rams in their last 5 matchups. It doesn't matter who's playing quarterback, whether it's Nick Mullins, CJ Beathard, Jimmy Garoppolo, or if it's Trey Lance on Sunday. Sean McVay has struggled against Kyle Shanahan. Matthew Stafford has been in a slump. He's going up against a tough, stingy San Francisco defense. I think the Niners pull off an upset in order to keep their season alive. This team will be in the playoffs, like I predicted at the start of the season. For the final game of the season, we got the Raiders taking on the Chargers. Give the Raiders credit for all the drama they went through this season. They still find themselves 1 game away from potentially being in the playoffs. They had to deal with the John Gruden drama, followed by the Henry Ruggs situation. Then came Damon Arnett. Rick Bisaccia did a phenomenal job with this team. All they have to do is win 1 home game, and they're in. On the other side, the Chargers have a ton of talent. I picked them to get to the playoffs before the season started. They had a shot 2 weeks ago against the Houston Texans to potentially clinch a playoff spot. If they beat the Texans, this game would be irrelevant. They also had a shot 3 weeks ago on a Thursday night to win the division against the Kansas City Chiefs and couldn't close that deal. That being said, I believe the Chargers' talent will prevail. I don't love the drama in Las Vegas. There was another incident this week with Nate Hobbs that I don't love. The Chargers are just a better football team. The Raiders have been up and down all season long. Every time you want to believe in them, things go south. When you pick them against Chicago, they lose. When you pick them against Washington, they lose. When you pick them to beat the Giants, they lose. So we'll see how it goes. I believe this game will go into overtime. These AFC West rivalries typically go down to the wire, but I got the Chargers making the postseason. Thank you guys for watching. Hopefully you like this video. Be sure to hit that thumbs up and hopefully leave a comment down below. Thanks, guys.